Yo, what's up guys? Brendan Wolf here, bringing you another video. We're going to be talking about the MMR system in League of Legends. Gains, losses, how it works, basically. I'm joined with a good friend of mine. His name is Mason. He is a challenger top laner, and he's got a lot more insight about this topic than I do. So let's jump right into it. All right. Mason, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. Thank you so much for being on the video with me today. So
Yeah.
we'll start here and we'll say, what do you think about, let's say, a silver 2 or gold 2 player that is gaining 19 LP and losing 27? What are some factors that could have played into this and caused this to happen throughout the season?
So when your gains and losses are like, there's that much of a gap between them, because we're talking like an 8 LP gap, when realistically we want that to be neutral, where you're at maybe plus 25, minus 25, somewhere in that range. To get to the plus 19, minus 27 range, basically you've done something that Riot really doesn't like. And that could be a lot of different things. That could be that maybe you lost a bunch of games, maybe you were gold 4, you lost a bunch of games, you went to silver, and just all those repetitive losses on 0 LP, while they weren't taking LP away from you, they were taking MMR away from you. To demote from gold to silver, your MMR has to fall somewhere to around silver 3, silver 4, actually. So that could be like one really big factor, but there are several others outside of demotion, that could also affect that. Even just demoting from silver 1 to silver 2, say, if you lose on 10 LP and you go to 0 and then you lose again, and you go to silver 3 or silver 2 or whatever, that actual, even though you only lost 1 LP, what you have to keep in mind is you're still losing full MMR for that game. So at some point, yeah, Riot will end up taking 24 LP away from you that you should have lost from that game.
So would that be like the same concept if you were winning at, like, let's say 95, 97 LP?
Yeah, it's a very similar thing. If like, for example, if you're tilted, you're like, oh, I'm 99 LP, I wish I was 100. The reality is, if you win that next game and then you do well in your promos, you're actually going to have Overflow LP, as I like to call it, where Riot is actually going to owe you LP, and they're going to be giving you better gains, and you're going to lose less LP when you lose after promoting.
I like that. That actually does make sense. What about like loss streaks and win streaks? How do those affect MMR? Especially for like newer accounts, because I feel like it hits newer accounts a lot harder than it does like more seasoned accounts that might have, like, if you're 500 games deep into a season and then you go on a win streak, it doesn't feel like it affects the account that much.
So from my experience, this is something that has changed a lot over the years. I feel like in the past, even if you were like on a seasoned account, if you won a bunch of games in a row, Riot would adjust your MMR to be like according to higher elo. Say you're like a Diamond 4 player, you streak to D1, you might have like Master MMR. But what it seems like now is that's not really the case, except for, the new accounts. It seems like Riot is much more interested in adjusting the lower game accounts to their correct elo than adjusting a player who was maybe hard stuck and got lucky or something like that. Or maybe someone that bought a boost because maybe the booster got them there, but they don't really deserve that rank. So Riot doesn't want to inflate their MMR.
Okay. So what does that have to do with, let's say, because a lot of times when somebody gets into these like plus 19, minus 27, I usually jump right into like a new account angle. I'm like, okay, this account is like so far gone that it's possibly is better off for you to just make a new account. And so I do know a little bit about normals MMR affecting it. So typically, like, in my opinion, I always tell people that it's best to hand level your own account rather than buying one. What are your thoughts on that?
So it's a bit of a tricky situation. I do think that, like, obviously it is against the Summoner's Code to buy accounts, but streamers and, lots of high-elo players have gotten around this. Essentially, when you start playing ranked on an account, and this is true for all accounts that have never played ranked before, never even a single placement game in a previous season, it'll take your highest MMR between normals and ARAM, actually. And it'll apply that MMR. Yep, ARAM. It'll apply that MMR to your very first ranked game. It'll say, okay, we're going to set you down right here. And there are, I want to say, ceilings and floors for this. You can't really start playing ranked higher than like a Plat 4 MMR. And I don't really know the floor, but I don't think you can start playing ranked on Iron 4 MMR either. So it really just comes down to like how well you perform in norms or in ARAM, and that's actually going to apply to where you start in ranked. And Plat 4 is really easy to get to in norms because you would only have to be playing versus like diamond players in norms to get to that point in ranked. So it's actually very easy to go to a new account and have a higher MMR than your main that you've been playing on for a substantially longer time.
So you're telling me that I could level up an account and only play ARAMs, and if I was doing well in those ARAMs, I'd actually get like placed higher for my first ranked game?
Well, technically yes,
Huh.
but ARAM has a bit of a different system than Summoner's Rift. It takes a lot more games to get higher MMR in ARAM than Summoner's Rift.
Gotcha.
We're talking 10 to 20 times the amount of ARAMs than Summoner's Rift.
So with those new accounts, now obviously, like you said as well, it is against Summoner's Code to buy accounts. I'd never recommend that to like people that are, when I say new account angle, I mean like level it up yourself, because I personally think that it's better because you're gonna get a better idea of where you actually belong when you're leveling it up, especially if your normals MMR is gonna be the thing that puts you where you're gonna start off in ranked. But is it true though that somebody could, if they did purchase an account, that they could actually play norms and manipulate the system? I mean, that seems a little scummy to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit scummy, but frankly, if someone wanted to buy an account, whether it was botted or hand leveled, as long as that account didn't really play norms, you could just go onto that account, play like 20 normal games, and then start out ranked around that platform MMR pretty easily.
Wow. How many games do you think that would, like, do you have to play a lot of them, or is it just like a handful? And then once you see like you're there.
Yeah, I've leveled up my own accounts through ARAM just to test this and then played norms. Honestly, it doesn't, if you can play just 10, 20 and win, I would say 80% of them, that's all it takes.
Wow, okay.
Or you could also actually play with a group of people or a duo that's high MMR, and just like in solo queue, when you're duoing someone that's higher MMR, it's actually going to inflate your MMR a bit. So if you're like a fresh level 30 or something, you've never played norms, and you duo with a master GM challenger player, after about 10 games of playing with them, your MMR is actually going to be around that, master GM challenger level, and you can go straight into ranked with super high gains.
It kind of sounds like we're a little bit exposing the system here. I feel like this sounds like something people probably do often, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there hasn't been much light shed on this, but I think this has been in the game now for 2.5 seasons.
You know what? Let me throw you an impromptu question here. What do you think that a hard reset on the ladder would benefit the ladder's health overall? Like completely hard reset, challengers back to silver, everybody back to silver.
I think in the short term, that would be very challenging to players and to the health of the game. But, maybe over the course of 3-6 months or even a season, I think that would be extremely beneficial for the game.
See, that's my thoughts as well. So from the understanding that I have is like, so they've been adding ranks and it's kind of like temporary band-aids. It's like, so Emerald is coming out in like a week or so. And when Emerald comes out, it just makes, it's a weird fix, right? You're kind of like making the racetrack longer to the end, which it actually kind of fixes the issue. It's like a little band-aid for a season and a half, and it makes everything a little bit better.
Yeah, well, I think we encountered a lot of problems this season. I think we've already seen things like Emerald come into play. When we remove divisional promos, we're essentially we're injecting 20 LP into every division for every player. Or maybe not injecting, but removing it. So, I mean, that was one of the reasons that like Grandmaster Challenger got pushed to 701k LP for the first time ever.
Yeah, true.
And then because they're removing tier promotions, like no more silver promos, bronze promos, gold promos, whatever, because they're removing all that, they are adding in this band-aid of Emerald. They're trying to make sure they're not inflating it by removing those, but they have to add in a rank for players to get that LP back, or to essentially work their way up the ranks where they otherwise would have been doing promos and stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to say initially what kind of effect Emerald will have in the game, but so far every season Riot has just been increasing the amount of players in high elo, and I hope that Emerald will decrease it, honestly.
I agree with that. I don't want to be similar. I don't know if you've seen like statistics on like Apex Legends, how like the biggest player base in the game is literally Masters. Like,
Oh, that is crazy. I had no idea.
yeah, it's really bad. The majority of all players are in Masters and Apex Legends right now, and a lot of people are really upset. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we can fix
that's
that.
crazy.
Hopefully, we don't have that happen to us in League of Legends. So there is another random question, and I don't really think there's much of an answer for it. But this is kind of just like a personal question. When I was peaking and I was up to 260, 270 LP, I started to gain like less and less as I was going. I was like win streaking, and I was going from like plus 25 to 24 to 23 to 22. And I think my last win before I fell down from peak, I think it was last month or 2 months ago, it was a plus 22 win. Is there anything that has to do with like accounts that are peaking? Are they getting less MMR because they're not familiar with that area, like in that MMR range or something like that? Or
So that's a really tough question to answer, and it's one that's very specific to, I would say, like Master Plus. I've noticed this myself, that just over time gains have become less and less in Master Plus. I'm not sure if it has something to do with peaking or that rank in particular, especially with that rank not having, promos, 0 LP break marks, 100 LP break marks. I don't really know what's going on, but I've encountered the same thing where one day I'm getting 26, 28 LP in Grandmaster, the next day I'm getting 21, 22, with nothing happening in between. It feels like Riot likes just kind of tweaking the gains in Master Plus. I know a lot of people joked like when Tony Top hit 2k LP, everyone was gaining less, and there was lots of jokes about that going around. But I think that's more so just superstition. But that is when my LP went from 28 to 22. So it might have an effect with players pushing the ladder up further and Riot trying to shrink the ladder, but it's really anyone's guess.
Well, I'm going to end this off with a couple things that we talked about that you actually brought up on stream. So this is a conversation that we already had, but I think it'd be cool to talk about for the video as well. Is duoing bad? So we had a discussion about it because I ended up doing, and I never duo, but I just ran into this guy in solo queue and he had good vibes. So I was like, yeah, let's play together. So we went on like this 10-game win streak, but I ended up losing or winning less and less as the win streak continued. And then you brought up how duoing actually puts, well, actually, I'll let you explain it because I.
Yeah, no problem. So something that Riot, basically League has always had forever is that when you're playing with a duo, there's two things that are going to change your game. So first off is duo parity. It's going to mean that the enemy team also has a duo just to match you. And Riot said this was something like 90 to 99% of games. One duo is always matched into another duo. Something to keep in mind. Another thing is that when you're duoing, and this has been true forever, is that you are playing in slightly higher MMR games. Think of it as maybe 50 LP to 100 LP higher than your solo MMR. But what they did this season is they actually increased that threshold even further, maybe 100 to 200 LP higher than your initial MMR.
Okay.
So they did that this season, and the reality is when you play in higher MMR games, you're actually going to gain more LP for it. So maybe you normally gain 26, but if you're playing in 100 LP or MMR higher games, you're going to be gaining 27, 28.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Unfortunately, your MMR isn't actually going up to scale with the LP that you are gaining. Your MMR still is going up at likely a pretty flat rate, even though you're doing and playing these higher MMR games. And this is something that I have noticed and something that it seems like you dealt with on your account.
That actually makes, the way you just explained it makes it so simple. So literally, just because you're duoing, like you're playing in higher games, you're going to gain more MMR from that. But your personal MMR is just like going up the normal way that it should, but you're playing in these higher games because you're a duo. So once you take the duo away, then you're playing at the normal MMR that your MMR is at. So that's why it looks like there's such a big change. That actually makes a lot of sense. And I didn't realize that that had actually been documented as well, and Riot had talked about that before. I need to get up to date on stuff like that, to be honest. Now, what about, here's another thing that you brought up as well. The size. So you said the size of the map effect gains as well, like if you play on red side or blue side?
Right. So this is another thing Riot's been outspoken about, which is that so they've noticed literally since the beginning of the game that blue side has a higher win rate. And I mean, this could be for various reasons. They say it's because the lock screen is a lot better on blue side and it feels easier to move your camera around it because it's left to right. But since blue side has a higher win rate, Riot actually puts the lower MMR, the worst players, on blue side to try to even out the game. So as a result, if you are on blue side, you might actually gain 1 more LP than you would for a win than if you were on red side. It's very small. It's 1 to 2 LP changes. And if you're on red side, you might actually lose 1 to 2 more LP, since you're on red side losing to technically worse players.
That's really interesting, actually. Well, man, I think we've actually gone through all the questions that I had written down. Seriously, like, thank you so much. Like, this has actually been really beneficial for me too, getting to learn everything, and for you to like be able to answer all these questions and put this out in the public. I like really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
And no problem, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mason. I will talk to you soon, brother.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
And that's the video. Huge shout out to Mason for being a part of this video. That was super informative for me as well. I mean, even as a Masters player, like, there's a lot of things that I didn't realize or know either. I think this is awesome information, and hopefully this helps you guys out and gives you a better understanding of how the MMR system works. So thank you guys so much for being here. Until next time, peace out. Love ya. Bye bye.